So what about things that are not treatable right now? Well, these are the disease processes that cause the symptoms of dementia. Okay, so these are the diseases. It's not the dementia that's the disease. And we're going to talk about these different diseases now. We'll go through each one of them briefly. And I don't expect you to become an expert on each of these different disease processes just by mentioning them now. The reason that we go through this is because I think that it's important to be aware that different diseases present differently, that people will have different symptoms from these different diseases. We have to think about preparing the person in advance for some of the challenges that they may experience. By understanding the disease, we can plan ahead. We can make changes to the environment that are going to be supportive before the person needs those compensatory techniques. So being aware, having that knowledge is powerful for us because it helps us to help the individual really to have the best life possible. So just because a person has dementia doesn't mean that their communication needs have changed in any way. Communication for people with dementia, though, is different because they have a variety of systems that are impaired: memory, attention, concentration, their hearing, and all of those affect how they communicate. So, for example, people with dementia often become lost going to familiar places, requiring more time than usual to complete tasks. They have difficulty managing finances. They exhibit poor judgment. They become disoriented. All of these deficits affect communication. They may lose ideas of what to talk about and say and repeat the same stories or questions over and over again. And for a care partner who doesn't understand that that the person can't help this, it can become very frustrating. People lose their patience easily. People with dementia also experience changes in their ability to pay attention to things. So attention is the process of focusing on a specific stimulus for a particular length of time. So selective attention is focusing on a single relevant stimulus at one time while ignoring the irrelevant or distracting stimulation. And sustained attention is the ability to focus attention over extended periods of time. Okay? So current research suggests that attention is the first non-memory area to be affected in dementia, before even deficits in language and visuospatial functions. And so what we see is that sustained attention is preserved pretty well in the early stages of dementia, but what is impaired is that selected, divided, or altering attention. So focusing on more than one relevant stimulus at a time, or attending to multiple stimuli at a time, being able to shift your focus from one thing to another is impaired in the early stages. So how do we help someone with that? How do we enhance attention? Well, we can reduce the number of response choices. So phrase the question, not so it's not open-ended, or so there's just two options from which to choose. We can use cues in the environment like signs or contrast. We can present materials in a very clear sequence using task breakdown instead of going through an activity all at once. Certainly familiar routines are a big way to enhance attention. The person knows what to expect.
Greetings from New Hampshire. I'd like to tell you about a client that I'm working with right now. He is a gentleman who lives on a farm, And he is at a stage in his dementia where he is realizing that he can't do what he used to do, and he can't remember the 6 grandchildren that live with him in his house, and this makes him very sad and anxious. They were having to medicate him, and so we talked about giving him jobs that he could do to help fill his once busy days. So an idea we came up with is one of the things he's been able to do is to clean eggs so that they can sell them in their farm stand, but he was breaking them. So we had 2 ideas that we're implementing. One was to find imitation eggs and have him clean those. And the other idea that I think we're going to try this week is to hard boil eggs, and even if we have to go out into the coop and dirty them, that we will then bring them back and he will clean them, give him that job, ask him if he will help us do that job. So that's a hope we have that it will help his day. The other thing is he's having trouble with his language. He's having trouble with his remembering of names. He lives in a very busy home with his wife and daughter's family with 6 granddaughters, and he can't remember names. So I've suggested name tags. The family's going to try that, and they also are going to make him a little memory book with simple photographs and names that he can flip through to help for him to recall the names. The other idea is, because language doesn't come as easily for him, we've made some conversation boards that I've tried out with him. One is about his drinking buddies that he used to go to camp with, and I've listed their names and the kinds of beer that they drank, and in conversation with him using those, he clearly relaxed and was much more at ease and laughed, and it was a real transformation to see in him using that. And then we came up with another one for ice cream, because it's something that he and his wife like to do, is have ice cream, but he couldn't recall the names of them. So we did a little conversation board around ice cream, and there was lots of joking and laughing, and he felt good, and his wife was really pleased to see him relax. And we're hoping that with filling his day with some more meaningful jobs and roles, that they will not need as much medication and that he'll feel better. So those are ideas I got from Jennifer and have changed my way of working with folks with dementia.
Well, one thing that we know is that even after they lose that ability to process all of the information that you're giving to them verbally, so they have to auditorily process information. When they're having difficulty with that, what do they rely on instead? They rely on looking at you. They look at your eyes, they look at your face, your body, and they get information from your body language. We have to be so aware of how we hold our body and the gestures and the facial expressions that we're using. They are so tuned into those nonverbals.